Well, hi, everybody. It's another Conversations With, and I am delighted because one of the things we've often talked about here on the program is pets and how people love them. But I have Lindsay D with me, and she is with the Second Chance Animal Shelter, but it's bigger than that now.
It is, it is.
And it's growing and growing and growing.
It
well,
is.
Lindsay, it's delightful to have you here, and I'm just thrilled to hear some of the stories about your own expansion from the Brookfield area and to where you've gone. And
Sure.
why don't we talk about the expansion first, and then we'll talk about how people get a hold of you and what they need to do. And, and because, you know, and we've shared this already, we hear all these great horror stories of, you watch the news and every 3 or 4 days there's some story about somebody that abused an animal or whatever. But then there's the great stories, and there are some of those too. So let's begin, and let's talk about some of the expansions that's going on.
Okay. So Second Chance Animal Shelter, actually, we recently changed our name. It's now Second Chance Animal Services, because we want people to know about all of those changes that we've made. And some of them happened, you know, a little while ago, but we really feel like changing that name and kind of rebranding so that people know, and it kind of begs the question
on... You're more than just a shelter.
Exactly, and that's our tagline, actually, is that we're more than just a shelter, and we want people to know that.
So let's talk about those services.
So we have the multiple locations.
Yep.
We started as kind of the little shelter that could in East Brookfield, and then we expanded to North Brookfield with our vet clinic that's out there. It houses our high volume spay neuter, wellness exams, vaccine clinics, all that you would find in a vet clinic.
People can just go and make an appointment.
Absolutely.
And go.
Yes, they can. And then we expanded that to include Springfield, which we are further expanding. But we started in Springfield. It's been a little over 2.5 years now that we've had a location on Belmont Ave in Springfield. And that has exploded. That location outgrew its building that it was in about 6 months.
Wow.
But we were already in the works on then opening a veterinary hospital in Worcester. So that opened in August of 2017. So now we're back into Springfield. We recently purchased a much larger location to house our veterinary hospital out there. So that will be moving to 67 Mulberry Street later this year. We're hoping for May 1st. We've still got some projects there to finish before we can get in there. But yeah, we're really excited. It allows us to expand a lot more services. It's no longer just spay neuter. It is everything. It's, you know, the wellness exams. It's the vaccine and microchip clinics. It's specialty surgeries, dental surgeries, mass removals. You know, they do the eye surgeries. We've done amputations. We've done orthopedic. We can do all of that.
Right.
We have x-ray. We have ultrasound. We have the diagnostics. So anything that you're going to find in a veterinary hospital, we have it and then some. And we have very highly trained vets that do obviously all of our surgeries, all of our appointments. So it's quite the team.
Well, you know, one of the things we have a program I do with Joe Rolanitis from the Federal Drug Administration, the FDA, and we did a program about beginning of the winter about taking care of animals in the winter, and people don't think about it. You know, they'll take their dog for a walk, and there's ice or snow on the ground, and they don't realize that those little pads. What happens is they can pack up in there. And then they get cold, they get freezing, and people, you know, sometimes people don't think, you know, and even, I know we always talk in the summer about don't leave them in the car when it's hot and sunny in August. The same is true in the middle of the winter.
That is true.
You take the dog with you, go shopping, and you meet up with Sadie, your old girlfriend, and you talk to her for half an hour or 45 minutes. In the meantime, it's 20 degrees, and Poochie's sitting in the back seat freezing.
Yeah, there's a lot people need to think about. I mean, if it's too cold for you outside, it's too cold for them.
Yeah.
And you also have to be careful of the chemicals in the ice melts.
That's
so
right.
Taking your dog for a walk, if you're not using that pet safe ice melt, you can be actually making them very sick.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
And one of the things I didn't realize is if it's regular salt, like road salt, and it gets up in their pads, it burns them.
Well, that, and they also, they lick their pads to get it out.
Yeah, get it out.
And now they've ingested it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a lot that, I mean, it's some of it should be common sense, but it's partly remembering it.
I have to share with you. My dear dad, from I was a little kid growing up until the day he died, and he served in both World Wars, was a commander in the Navy, and 3 days before he died, he said to me for the umpteenth thousandth time, "Son, whatever happened to common sense?" You know, and sometimes it's just that we don't think.
Exactly, we don't think.
We don't take time to think for a moment. You know, is there something I should be aware of? You know, and it's awareness, and yet, you know, people love dogs, but there's a tremendous responsibility that goes with either a dog or a cat, any kind of a pet.
That's true.
There's a tremendous responsibility that goes with that. They can't open doors. They can't.
Nope.
They can't, you know, do things that we can do.
Right.
And we have to be aware of that.
Yep.
And so it's really, really, you know, enlightening that there's a facility that now has 4 locations.
Yes.
in the area, but that offers so many. I mean, I remember many years ago when we had the radio station in Southbridge, and we had some people down from the second, and it was a little shelter, and if you got a pet you can't take care of, bring them to us, and we'll help you out. And then they had a great program of the neutering and spaying program. They used to really promote that.
Yep.
And
we still do that.
And
we
now
still
a
do
couple
that.
of years from later, I talked to you, and it's not that little shelter up in East Brookfield
No.
anymore.
No,
You know?
we always joke that we started as the little shelter that could.
Yeah.
The Second Chance has been around since '99.
Yeah.
And it was started by Cheryl Blancato. She is our founder.
Yeah.
And she is our executive director. And she started as an animal control officer and realized the need for the shelter. So that's how
Yeah.
it started. And she did all of the fundraising to get us that physical location in East
Right.
Brookfield. And then there was so much need, but we wanted to, you know, after years of, you know, it was, you know, obviously
Yeah.
taking in animals that didn't have homes and adopting them out, the need goes beyond that. You know, we wanted to look at it and think, geez, what can we do? Why are these animals coming to us? And we want surrender prevention. We want to know why they're coming to us. Is there a way for them to stay in their home? Is it that they don't have another option, or is there something that we can do to provide them with an option? And a lot of times the reason for surrender was finances. It was, geez, you know, Poochie got sick,
Yeah.
and I don't have the money to address this
Right.
skin infection, so I'm going to surrender it to a shelter. And then the shelter takes on that expense
Yeah.
of treating that animal before they can adopt it out, which obviously, you know, coming from
Yeah.
the shelter side of things, as a nonprofit, funds are always very limited and very tight. So now they're taking that on
Right.
to then adopt out the animal, while this home that loves the animal dearly, you know, that fee, it could have been, you know, if it's a lesser
Right.
fee, they may have been able to afford it and the animal stays in its home.
Yeah.
And that's where these clinics and hospitals came about, is most of the time it was for something that was treatable, and once it was treated, you know, it was no longer an issue.
Well, you know, you mentioned that, and you know, one of the things that we do a multitude of different programs here. One of the things that I've always talked about is, in general, right, our governments are reactive. They're not proactive. We wait till the bridge falls down, and then we say, oh my God, we got to fix the bridge.
Right.
When we knew it was failing for years.
Right.
And would have cost $5,000 to fix it in the first place. Now it's $500,000 to replace it. And so it's the same philosophy.
Right.
That we wait till there's a problem before we try to solve it. And by going out and finding out why are you here in the first place, you know, and solve some of those issues, or reach out to
Proactive.
people. Yeah, be proactive. It certainly prevents people from losing. I mean, I have to tell you, the kids, they're all grown now, but when they were little, we got to get a dog. Got to get a dog. Well, the woman who was my secretary at the radio station, her best friend had a St. Bernard who had puppies. So we ended up with a little St. Bernard, and the promise was, Dad, get the dog, and we'll take care of it.
Yeah, of course.
Guess whose dog it ended up being?
Yeah. And that normally,
The first
I mean,
week,
that's normal.
the first week, the kids couldn't wait to take care of the poor guy. By the second week, it was Dad's dog, you know, and so, you know, I learned a great lesson, you know, and I mean, he grew to be 14, and the poor old guy, their hinds go, you know, for the St. Bernards, and we had to have him put away, but the point was, I said, no more dogs. you know.
So we try and take that proactive
Yeah.
approach that you're talking about, and that's why we focused on surrender prevention by figuring out what the root cause of the issue was and what we could do to prevent it. If it's
Right.
always, constantly the litters of kittens
Yeah.
coming in, well, if there's that spay-neuter program available, well, now you're not having all of those unwanted litters.
That's right.
If it's financial because, the dog got sick or the cat got sick, and they have a resource to go to, because all of our clinics and the hospitals, they are full service. Anybody can go to them, but we do offer subsidized pricing for those that qualify. So people that are living on disability and things, they
Right.
can qualify for that subsidized rate, which means they're able to now get their animal taken care of for an affordable fee.
That's right.
And it doesn't mean anybody else is paying any more. Nobody that's paying the full
Right.
rates. They're not paying any more than you would pay at a private vet practice.
Right.
But we're able to offer all of these programs and services to help prevent animals from, suffering in the
Right.
community or, not having food. We also have a pet food pantry, which we work with, I think it's 12 to 14, people food pantries. And we provide them with, if we have a surplus of dog food or cat food, we provide it to the pantry so that people that are already, using the food pantry for themselves, what they were finding is those people were getting the food,
Right.
and they were feeding their pet and still going without because they didn't have the money for pet food.
I have to share with you a great, you
Sure.
talk about food. I had a radio station one time in my life at Killington, Vermont.
Okay.
And I ended up, I love to do promotions, and we ended up getting involved with the Mars Candy Company. Now Mars has a division that makes, and they call it food for pets. They don't call
Okay.
it dog food, it's
Yep.
food for pets. And we did a huge, we had Doggy Olympics at Killington Ski Area. We took a whole section, and people could, we had a little course, and we had gold medals, and we had Doggy Olympics, and the company, sponsored the whole thing. We had over 300 people bring their animals to go through the little doggy tracks and everything else.
Oh, I believe
and
it.
we had they got gold, badges and all. It was silvers and bronze. But it was eye-opening for the number of people who showed up. And
People love their pets.
it was just.
And if things are out there for them, they're going to take advantage of them.
Oh, yeah.
So, along that line, having all of those services available to them, if they know, geez, I have my dog and it needs this, even if they're, they fall into the poverty level, they still want to care for their pet. They still love that pet. It doesn't mean they love it any less because of their financial ability.
Well, what happens is we have a situation, and I've seen it, where we get people who may be widowed, they're older, and they have that
It's their
dog,
sole daily companion.
and that's their love.
Yes.
And that's their life. And they're on fixed incomes, and it becomes expensive for them, and because they got medication they got to take.
Right.
But that's their life, is that little dog or that little cat.
The majority of our clients, that is the situation. The majority of our clients, we have a lot of elderly clients that their pet is their sole daily companion.
That's
that
right.
dog or cat means more to them than anything else.
In the world, that's right.
We offer a Homebound to the Rescue program. That one is completely grant funded. So when we have the grants for it, we're actually able to go into senior housing and offer wellness clinics so that the animal is getting, the vaccines that it needs and a wellness exam. Obviously, if there's anything further the pet needs, then we can set them up with an appointment at one of our hospitals. But you would be surprised at how many people are in that situation where they no longer drive, so they don't have access to get to us aside from these clinics, or that pet is everything to them, but because they're on Social Security or fixed income, if something happens, it's catastrophic for them.
Oh, yeah.
$100 to, somebody that's out in the workforce, it's inconvenient, but, it's manageable. For somebody that's on disability, that every single dollar they have is
allocated.
Exactly. When a $100 bill comes up for, their pet that's sick.
Devastating.
It's devastating, and we see a lot of that, and that's why we have those hospitals, and that's why we have the programs for people that are living, below the poverty level, on fixed incomes, on Social Security, because it doesn't mean that they love their pet any less.
No.
And that's the huge misconception that's out there is, I have people that'll say to me, well, why do you offer these programs to them? if they don't, it should be simple. If they don't have the money to have a pet, they shouldn't have it. And that's the wrong way of thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Because most of the time, it's a pet that's been in the house
Well,
for 10 years.
that's the other thing. There was a time when they could afford
Exactly,
it.
exactly.
And their husband passes away or their wife passes away.
And now they've got to try and survive on a drastically reduced income.
That's right.
It's not the pet's fault. It's not
No.
that person's fault. They don't want to be in that situation.
No.
And that's where, once you explain that to people, then it's, the light bulb effect of, oh, I didn't think about that.
That's right.
Most people that are already, they can't afford a pet, they're not looking to go out and adopt or get a pet from a breeder. Typically what happens is those that are coming to us, they've had that pet for years, they've fallen on hard times, something in their, financial dynamics has changed. And a lot of times it's elderly.
Yeah.
And obviously nobody would want to go up to, the 85-year-old woman whose cat is her, her whole world because she lost her husband last year and say, you know what, you can't afford it, you shouldn't have it.
Yeah, we'll take it away from you. Yeah.
Exactly. So we want to be able to go in there and say, okay, sure, no problem. With the dynamics and the situation that's changed, you now qualify for these rates. This is, what we're able to do for you. And for them, it's oh my God, thank you so much. I don't know what I would do without, my cat.
Yeah.
And that's our goal. It's helping to strengthen that human-animal bond. It already exists. Let's make it so that it's a lifelong thing, and they never have to worry about surrendering their pet because there are services available to them.
I remember I was up in Vermont. I had the radio station up there, and I lived in. We had a beautiful backyard, and every year we had these cardinals that used to fly in. Now they weren't really my pet, but there's nothing more gorgeous than the early spring when a beautiful bright red bird is flying around your backyard. And they used to come every year. They come back every summer. They come back in the spring, and we used to just sit having coffee on the back deck and watch them. And so it can be infectious.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was a bird. I mean, I don't know why he came to 17 Birchwood, but he did, because we had a nice tree in the backyard. He liked our tree or whatever it was. But it can be that simple.
Yep.
And to your point, especially as folks get to the point where they rely on that animal. That's their soulmate. That's their life.
We've actually done more to increase programs like that. So your conversation about the pets being, it's a contagious thing. You have one and everybody wants one, everybody wants to be near it. We actually, I actually started a program a couple years ago. It's called Project Good Dog. Which pairs behaviorally needy shelter dogs with inmates at local correctional facilities. And you would be amazed at how much care and how well these guys treat these pets when they go up there. So we take our tougher to place dogs, ones that I call them behaviorally needy. Yeah. They're the ones with high energy, no manners, no obedience, because nobody's ever given them that time.
That's right.
We bring them up to the prisons. We work with 3 right now. And I bring them up there, and they're paired with somebody that is incarcerated. Right. And they work with them on training the dogs. So they will train them basic commands, sit, lay down, come. Right. When I walk into those facilities, it's, oh, who are you bringing? And you would be amazed at how much baby talk goes on when those dogs walk in there. Everybody comes out from their rooms, even people that aren't involved in the program. Like if they're not one of the handlers, they're still in the building. They still enjoy the company of them while they're there. And everybody will be standing at their like cell block door going, oh, and they're all talking to them with baby talk. And honestly, it's kind of the funniest thing when you're up there because you see these guys that have been incarcerated. Sometimes I've had guys that have been incarcerated for 17 years. Yeah. That's a long time. Oh, yeah. And you bring up the dogs and you hear the baby talk, over, it's amazing.
Well, we have a fellow that does a program. He comes in every couple of months and he actually trains dogs, exclusively to dogs. And he's brought one of his own dog. And it's unbelievable. And he talks about the fact that the biggest problem people have is they take an animal and then don't properly train them. They don't train them. And then they get aggravated if the dog doesn't do what they want him to do. And he was explaining, and he does it. He can just look at his animal and he'll say, sit. And the dog sits down. And he came over to come near me and he says, stop right there. And the dog stopped and looked up at him. He says, okay, now you can go. And then the dog would, he did it here in the studio, and it was, you go, whoa. But he said, that's the biggest problem, is that people who, and he says, they're great companions, but they're
You have
just
to
like
put in the
kids.
time.
They're just like kids. If you don't train them, and you train your kids,
Yeah.
you got to train them. If you don't want the dog in bed or you don't want him on the couch, don't let him go on the couch.
That's exactly it. And what we find is most of the dogs that are coming in to go up to the program, it's people that brought it home as a cute puppy and was like, oh, and it's it's adorable when it is chewing on your sneakers and grabbing at this and it's so cute. But then they don't do anything about it.
When he matures.
And then it's no longer cute. When they're 8 months old, they're grabbing your sweatshirt at the cuff and dragging you around, or they're chewing all the shoes in the house.
Yeah,
and you're upset
ripping the couch apart. Yeah.
Exactly, and you're upset because this is happening. But day one, you allowed them to chew on the shoes, and you did nothing about it.
It was okay. That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
So it's all in the training, and it's all in putting in the time and the effort. And the hard thing is, we are a society that is so busy. We are constantly busy. We are always, on our phone. And
it's instant gratification.
It is.
We want it now.
Exactly.
And that's computers may have done a lot of great things, but they also ruined a society. And I say that constantly on these different programs we do. They've ruined our society, and so have those foolish cell phones. I lived, honestly, I was in business. I owned radio stations for over 66 years. And for years and years, I've had a cell phone for the last 8 years. Now, for the first 70 years of my life, nobody ever had a problem getting a hold of Dick Vaughn. Because when I had my business, I would be out on the road seeing people selling advertising. And at 10:30 in the morning, I'd go to a phone booth, throw in a dime, call my office, anything for me. And Diane would say, yep, Joe called, Mike called. Okay, I'll stop by and see him. And then I would call again right after lunch and get any messages. And then I'd usually get back to the office by 4, and I'd have the rest of them on the desk. And I'd sit there and call people back.
It's not like that anymore.
But nobody ever had a problem getting a hold of me, okay? And the other thing we did, we always had somebody to answer our telephone, okay? Now, emails and voicemails have ruined it because people don't bother getting back to you. You send them an email, they don't answer it, and it drives you crazy. But the real problem is, as great as computers were, they've also made us instant gratification, because it's at a push of a button we can reach somebody, whether they're in the, I tell people all the time, do you know what question is the most asked in America today? There's one question that's asked more than any other question. Where are you? Oh. Phone rings and the first thing they say to you is, where are you?
Yeah.
What do you care?
Yeah. No, it's true. We have gotten very, very
Go to the grocery store. They're walking down the aisle with the phone on their ear.
Oh, and I'll fully admit I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
But we've also made it so that people are working constantly because you can always get a hold of them.
That's right.
I will tell you, my cell phone goes off with text messages, emails, up till 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And you feel compelled to answer it because you're like, well, if I don't get back to them, soon enough, they're going to that opportunity is going to go, on to somebody else, and it's true. But it does go to we're always so connected, but yet so disconnected because we're not focusing sometimes on what's important, like the training that you're talking about. So that's what's so great about that program is they have what we don't have, time.
That's right.
Time. Nobody's bothering them. They're not getting 15 phone calls a day. They don't have a job to report to.
No, that's right.
Some have jobs in the community, but for the most part, they are sitting there waiting for something to do.
That's right.
They've got the time. So by sending the dogs up there, they get the training. When the dogs are done with their training, they come back to the shelter. And now the people that need that instant gratification, that dog that's going to listen to them, it's not going to be perfect by any means. Obviously, the dog still has to adjust.
You still got to take him home. He's got a house to adjust to. He's got to know what room he can go into, what room he can't go into.
Yep, and they've still got to, continue the training.
That's right.
But at least the basics are there, and the dog, knows some of it.
The dog's at least manageable.
Exactly. It makes it so much easier. But it does. The program is phenomenal for that because we are in that instant society. Everybody wants everything to be done for them
now
with no effort, and right now.
Yep. And one of the things is, the tragedy is, and I graduated from high school in the 50s. It was a different, you're too young, but it was a way different world then. If you did something wrong, by the time you got home, your father already knew. Because one of the neighbors, because they were thick as thieves. They all knew each other. They all knew each, and we used to have I grew up in Malden, and there was a curfew. If you were 18 or under, at 9 o'clock, the fire whistle blew, and you had to be off the street. And if you weren't, they'd take you and put you in a cruiser and drive you home.
Oh, Jesus.
They'd pick you up and they'd just say, get in the car. You know, if it was after 9 o'clock and you were under 18. Well, we used to hang around the square after, because I was in sports, so all the jocks would always, well, you know, and Tommy Heath was the cop in the square. And at 8:45, and he knew every kid, and he knew where you lived, and he knew how long it would take you to get home.
Oh, God.
And he'd start around the square about 20 minutes of 9, and he'd say, hey, Vaughn, you live up in Oak Grove? It's going to be 12 minutes for you to get home. You better get going, because if you don't get going, I'm going to drive you home, and if I drive you home and bring you to your father, you know what's going to happen to you. Get going. If a cop did that today, they'd have him arrested.
Yeah.
You know, that's how society has changed.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally different. Even from when I was a kid, it's
Yeah.
different. I mean,
It's a different world.
it is.
And
I didn't get my first cell phone, which I know this is going to sound,
Yeah.
you know, really awful to you. I was almost 18.
Yeah. Yeah. My grandkids all have them, you know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I see 6-year-olds with better phones than I have.
Oh,
so.
yeah, well, it's what it is. Now, let's take a minute.
Sure.
Because we got a few minutes left, but let's take a minute because we've had a great discussion. How do people get a hold of you? What's the best way that they can reach you folks?
Sure. So it depends on what they're looking for. If they are looking to adopt an animal, they want to call the adoption center. They can certainly email the adoption center. If they're looking to find out, you know, what animals are looking for homes, it's right on our website. They can go to www.secondchanceanimals.org. You will find any of our phone numbers and emails on there, but you can also look at the adoptable pets. If they're looking to book an appointment at one of our hospitals, again, they can get that right off of our website. They can pick which location, whether they want Worcester, Springfield, North Brookfield. They can click on that and call and leave a message.
So the best way to go is through the webpage.
Yeah, yep. Instant. They can get the
Yep.
phone numbers right there.
Yeah, that's right.
And the emails and everything right there, and that way they can set that up.
Right.
And even the phone will prompt them if they're looking for a spay-neuter appointment.
Right.
It'll tell you, you know, hit this
Yeah,
number.
do that.
Exactly.
Now, there's a great story. We talked about all the times you watch Channel 5 or 7, and you hear every once in a while, once a week, whatever, about the horror stories of some poor woman that had 84 cats and didn't know how to take care of them.
Right.
And or the guy that abused his dog, and somebody saw him hit the dog, and whatever. But there's a story that you shared with me before we went on the air.
Yes.
That is a remarkable story. I mean, it's remarkable.
It is.
And if people don't think dogs are smart, they're kidding themselves. Will you share that story with
Sure.
us?
So we have a dog that is actually still looking for a home right now. The dog's name is Craig, and Craig is a pit bull mix. There was a volunteer in the kennel, you know, spending some time with him, and the dog started barking, and the dog kept barking, and it actually alerted the staff to go in there. And the dog was actually alerting that the person was going to have a seizure. So they were able to alert the staff that was on, so that the staff could call for an ambulance to come and help this person. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, when you think about it, you know, that the animal would realize that this person was having an issue, and realize that, and the only means of communication they have is to bark.
Yep, barked
And
enough that it got two people
Somebody's
from
attention.
different.
What's he barking? What's going on in there?
Exactly,
You know?
and I mean, obviously, if the dog had not done that,
That's right.
she could have been seizing in there for,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't know how long.
No, and it could have been a sad ending.
Right. So
You know.
it was pretty remarkable, and the story is up on Facebook, and it has been shared over 700 times on Facebook.
Wow.
Yet Craig is still sitting at the shelter looking for a home.
Well, so
Which
there it
is-
is. So
yeah.
if anybody wants Craig,
Yeah.
you know, now
yeah,
you know
go
what to
check
do.
him out at the adoption center
Yeah.
because he's there.
Yeah.
And he sounds like he'd be a perfect candidate to go through more extensive training to be, a companion dog.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great. So now you obviously enjoy what you do.
I do.
How long have you been there?
I have been there almost 8 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yep, I'm their development director, so I handle all of our fundraisers, events.
You're the guy that has to bring in the...
Yeah, pretty much, yep. Which we do have a fundraiser coming up.
Good.
March 24th at the Leicester Country Club. It's our annual dinner auction, very popular event. We've already sold over 200 tickets to the event.
Great.
So I'm sure it'll be a sellout again this year. We are looking for donations of raffle items for that event. So anybody that is able to make a donation of a raffle basket needs to be new items. We would be glad to have them for the event.
Right.
It is our largest fundraiser to help support the more than 34,000 animals that we help every year through our programs.
34,000?
34,300 is the number for last year.
Okay.
And this year we're hoping to hit 40,000.
Wow.
So we can't do that obviously without the support of the community.
No.
So anybody that is able to make a raffle item donation or a business that wants to sponsor the event, we would really appreciate it. We are
Get a
trying
hold of
to-
Lindsay.
Yes, Lindsay Doré
She's
at
dynamite.
Second Chance Animal Services.
Yep.
You can email me. The email is development@secondchanceanimals.org. Second is spelled out, SECOND,
Right.
and animals does have an S at the end. But you can email me or you can call one of the facilities. Anybody there can find me.
Great.
You know, the beautiful
Lindsay,
instant gratification of the
Thanks a
cell
bunch.
phone.
There you are, folks, and other conversations with